Hello my lovely crafters, this is Crafty Sue 519. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Tea Tuesday. Well, today I've chose this Lemon Delight herbal tea from my friend Carla. So we're going to give this a try today. I have a little froggy in my throat. All right, let's get this steeping. Okay, I have my little biscotti. I haven't eaten breakfast yet, so I'm hungry. I thought I'd do this early. So, I don't know why this story is in my head, but it is, and I struggled as to whether to tell it or not, because it's kind of sad, but it ends up kind of funny. So, since that's what's on my mind, this is what I'm going to tell you. As you already know, when I was raising my kids, I lived out in the country, but I worked in the city, and it took me, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes to get to work, something like that. And I was coming home from work one day, and it was either the fall or the winter, I don't remember exactly when, because it was dark out, and the road I lived on didn't have street lights or anything, so it was very dark. And I had a lot of trouble seeing at nighttime, driving, and the only way I could really see where I was going was following the sand that was on the sides of the road. We had sand on the side of the road because of the salt that they would put on the roads when it would get icy and snowy, and it was salt mixed with sand. So we always had sand on the side of the road, and I could always follow that because the car lights would light that up, and always made sure I was where I was supposed to be. Well, this particular night I was coming home from work, and it was really dark. And about a quarter of a mile from my house was this area that had a little pond, very little pond on one side. And they had just paved the road in that area. And it was black. It was a real black tar. And I was coming upon that area, and I'm watching the sand to make sure I'm okay. I don't want to end up in that little pond. And ba-boom, I ran over something. Had no idea what it was. Didn't see it. So I went up the street a little ways, and I turned around, and I came back, and I had hit a beaver from that little pond. I was devastated. I got out of the car, and I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I jumped back in the car. I went home, which was just a few houses down the street, and ran into the house hysterically crying, just bawling my eyes out. I got my husband back then. I said, "You have to come with me. You have to come with me. I hit a beaver. I hit a beaver." And so he got in the car with me, and we went back, and the poor little thing had dragged himself over to it wasn't a little thing, he was a big beaver. Dragged himself over to the side of the road, and I got out of the car, and I went over to check on him, and he just looked up at me, and I will forever remember his little eye looking up at me. Oh. This was over 25 years ago, and it still affects me. So he was still alive, but I knew he was suffering. So I went home. We didn't have cell phones back then. And I called the police. And I said, "Please, please come. I hit a beaver, and he's still alive, but he's suffering. Please come and put him out of his pain." Oh, you have no idea. I just went insane. I couldn't believe that this had happened. Well, I called my brother, who lived in the same little town as me, and I'm hysterical on the phone. "I killed a beaver. I killed a beaver." I couldn't believe it. Oh, gosh. So he went and looked at it and called me back and said, he's dead now and he's off the side of the road. And I was a little bit relieved that he was out of his pain and, of course, feeling terribly, terribly guilty that this had happened. When all of a sudden my phone rang, and it was a guy who owned this rod and gun club that was in between where my brother and I lived. And he said, I heard you killed a beaver. I said, oh my God, that didn't take very long. I said, well, what? Why are you calling me? And he says, I would like to go and get him and have him stuffed and put in the club, in the rod and gun club. He says, but did you know that beavers are endangered here? And I said, what? And he goes, that's an endangered species. And I went, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I said, fine, if you want to go pick him up, pick him up. That's great. I'm glad he's not going to be left there. And so I guess they did. The next day, I get a phone call from the DEM, Department of Environmental Management. And they said, we've been informed that you killed a beaver. I couldn't believe it. I said, oh my gosh, it was an accident. I didn't see him. He was black on black pavement. I didn't see him. And they said, did you know this is an endangered species? And I said, yes, I found out last night that it is. And I said, it was an accident. I was coming home from work. I didn't see him. I ran over him. And then the police came and they shot him so he would be put out of his pain. And I think I broke his back. That's what I think happened. I don't know. Anyhow, apparently the Rod and Gun Club had to put in a request to be able to have him stuffed because he was an endangered species. So he had to get permission from the DEM. Well, the DEM called me to make sure that it was an accident, that I had run over this beaver and that it wasn't killed purposely by the Rod and Gun Club because he had a bullet wound as well as my injuries I caused him. I couldn't believe it. So that was okay. I wasn't fined or anything. I could have been, but they didn't. They knew I was very upset, and everything settled down after a while. And I don't remember exactly when, but I got a call again, at least a month, maybe more, after this incident happened. And it was the gentleman from the Rod and Gun Club again. And he said, we got permission to stuff the beaver and he's here with us now. And we have him on the bar. I've never went to that Rod and Gun Club. I passed it hundreds of times, but I never went in there. It was all guys. And he said, it's on the bar, and we have a little plaque at the bottom that says, killed by Sue Langlis on such and such a date. I couldn't believe it. And he wanted me to come and see it. And I said, I am not. You need to take that down. I don't want everybody to know that I killed a poor beaver. Oh my gosh. So as far as I know, Mr. Beaver is still sitting in the Rod and Gun Club in my little town of Harrisville, Rhode Island. Oh gosh, saying that I killed him. Oh gosh. I hear he made quite a lovely addition to the Rod and Gun Club. And he was big. I think they told me he was over 50 pounds. He was a big beaver, a really big guy. So all these years later, I'm still sorry, Mr. Beaver. Still sorry. Oh, that was horrible. That was just horrible. I love wildlife and living out in the country. I'll tell you, I hit a deer, jumped out of the woods right in front of my car. On my way home from work again. Didn't get hurt. Fortunately, I was going pretty slow, so there was no damage to the car and not to the deer either. But there was always something in the road. We had turkeys walking down the middle of the road, almost like they were laughing at us, because it was almost Thanksgiving time, but it wasn't hunting season yet. And I had just a big flock of turkeys walking down the middle of the road. It was funny. Oh my gosh. But I don't know why Mr. Beaver came to mind. Yep, that's lemony tea. It's very lemony. Very good. So I thought I'd tell you that story. I don't know why that came to mind of all things that have happened in my lifetime. Mr. Beaver came to mind. Anyhow, that's it for today. I will try to think of something happy for Christmas next week. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your week. I got some wonderful happy mail yesterday. And sent out all my Christmas cards. Oh gosh, I sent out a whole ton of Christmas cards to my subbies. If you didn't get one, I apologize, because there's no way I can send out to absolutely everybody. But I sent out a whole ton of them, and hope you enjoyed them. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Until next time, love yous. Bye.